What's up, ladies and gentlemen, OIT family? Welcome to the February 24th episode of Partner First. As always, we're joined by industry experts, thought leaders, people that have awesome stuff to share with us for the overall MSP community. And as always, we are joined by our amazing OIT family out there in the chat. I already see Keith, the Rose, Nelson, and I'm surprised he hasn't commented already that I stood him up again at the what was it, Zero Trust World. I see Eric Warren. I see Clever IT. Aileron IT. I hope I didn't butcher that too much. But today we have an awesome guest. It's, I'm all about community. I'm all about MSP life. This gentleman, I am very proud to say, literally puts communities together. If you haven't heard of the Tech Tribe, first of all, you're not anywhere I am. I mean, between Reddit and the IT pool party and Discord and everywhere else, I'm always espousing the benefits of the Tech Tribe, which is thetechtribe.com. If you haven't checked it out, it's an amazing community. And today we're joined by its founder, Mr. Nigel Moore. Nigel, how you doing, my friend?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. How are you? I now have to live up to the hype that you've given me somehow.
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. First and foremost, I want to say thank you because you're on the opposite side of the world. What's the time over there?
It's not too bad. It's 8:40 in the morning. So the kids are out the door to school and I'm awake. I saw someone in there say, Clever IT said I was still sleeping. I wish I was still sleeping, but when you got a sub 1-year-old in the house, there's no such thing as sleep over here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sleep, as long as the kids are out of the house, sleep is okay.
Right.
I miss when my kids were younger and they would take naps and I'm like, that was the best time. I would nap too. But, as always, this is recorded. This is live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. It will be immediately after for anybody that joins later. We always get the question, is this recorded? So it's there. But as you saw, we have our friends in the chat. If you have something, this is going to be a collaboration of communication. One of the things Nigel wanted to make sure was we don't have PowerPoints. This is going to be a conversation. So absolutely. For those that don't know you, that is absolutely not a wig, right? This is the
No, but there's not much sitting up the front here. It's all at the back.
Well, you see, I have my hats behind me, so I always have hats too.
Yeah.
But whatchamacallit, Ray at my age, 183, I take naps. I'm a big fan of naps. But whatchamacallit, but we want to hear your conversation too, because today we're going to be talking about marketing, what the best trends are, what the best tools and best practices are, because my friend Nigel here has done an amazing job of marketing not only the Tech Tribe, but also marketing for his MSPs, providing them resources. But before we get into that, why don't you give us some background on who you are and why you're here today? Because I think there's like 2 people on the planet that don't know you. You know what I mean? So.
Lucky them, hopefully. In a quick nutshell, I used to own an MSP or used to run an MSP for someone else. Then I owned an MSP for 8 or 9 years. Then I sold my MSP and now I teach people and coach people and mentor people in our Tech Tribe community how to avoid all the stupid stuff that I did wrong when I was in that 10, 15-year journey of running and owning MSPs. And nowadays we've just built this amazing community of about 3,000 MSPs all around the world now in there that hang out and help each other and serve each other. And we provide them documents and training and workshops and all sorts of stuff to help them do their thing. And it excites the crap out of me to be in the MSP space and helping people. As you guys, if you've never hung out with me before, you know that I'm a bundle of energy around this stuff and I could talk about this stuff until the cows come home and dive as deep and as wide as you want.
And that's the thing, right? It's not, and Keith already beat us to the punch here, talking about, the community. Unlike some other communities, Tech Tribe is a paid community, but I hate to even call it paid because the amount of stuff you do, for, I don't want to give numbers amounts. I think US it's $50,
$49, $50 a month.
It's
our only plan, like one plan, $49 a month, no contracts, no lock-ins, no sign-up fees, no nothing.
And I don't even want to say it's a pitch for the Tech Tribe, because at 49 bucks, trust me,
Yeah.
it's one of those I put the credit card and forgot about, because it's not 49 per person, it's 49 for the organization, and you bring in everybody. And that's, that's not a small thing, right?
Mm.
Um, Simon's part of it. My staff are all in the Tech Tribe. I probably take the most advantage of communicating with everybody in the forums, but
Right. Yeah.
um, you know what I mean? But that's a big deal, right? And it shows you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it. You just need a little bit of resources to put together all the amazing resources you have. You need some money to
Yeah.
do that with.
Correct.
So
Yeah. We need volume to do it. And so we had to, like, 49 bucks per month. It took us some time to get a business up and running there that was actually profitable and had some dollars to do it. But it took us a few years, and we're now at the point where we're able to invest heavily into content and tons of things. So for us, it's like the old Amazon Prime model. The more subscribers you get, the more value you can stack into the thing. And
absolutely. And and that's pretty amazing. You keep adding this value, which is ridiculous. You just did a major rehaul of the back end so you can make it easier to add on staff. I saw that email went out yesterday.
Yes.
How so you first and foremost, before we even get into marketing, right? You have this you have this amazing communication engine, which is like, you have emails that go out on a regular basis. You're constantly generating other content. We were just talking about your Behind the Geeks videos, the podcast, right? How do you come up with that much content? Because that seems to be like issue number one for everybody.
Really? That's funny, because I look at the content that we put out and I go, man, we don't do anything. Like, we're not doing any marketing at all. And so I guess if you guys are seeing a lot of it out there, then what the small amount that we are doing is working well, and it's getting syndicated well out there. But the key, I guess, for us is consistency, right? Like, what we'll come up with a new type of way we want to communicate to the industry or the audience or whatever it happens to be, or to our tribe, and we'll come up with that process once, and then we'll make it repeatable, so the team can go and manage all of it behind the scenes, and so that it's not reliant on me having to do that consistency, because I am, like probably most MSP owners out there, horrendous at anything that you've got to be consistent at. I love coming up with new ideas and I love creating version 1 of something, but I hate the stuff after that where you got to go and keep doing it. So we always work religiously to create something, and I work very heavily in that part of the process, and then we swap it across to a consistent, repeatable process that the team goes and manages from there. And that makes it easy for us to probably get to the point where you guys might be seeing a lot of stuff that we do, because I don't have to, like, we've got a team that manages that stuff. We've got a publishing section that looks after all that stuff in there. And that's probably a big takeaway for people, is don't get stuck in having to try and do all the content, the work, and the stuff yourself, because it will hold you back from getting stuff out there, because you probably won't enjoy it like I don't.
Yeah, and that's kind of the trick, right? So I guess if we turn it from marketing to communications, which is really at the end of the day what marketing is, right? It's getting yourself out there and and letting them know what's going on. Building that process, I can see how that's valuable here. I want to show this real quick, because I don't think it does justice me talking about it, right? Like, I want to show, like,
I like this webinar. It's a pitch fest for my business.
well, and it's really not. I just, as we come into this, and that's the first thing we tell vendors, like, this is not going to be a pitch thing, and you're not a vendor, you're the community, right? But the first thing we tell people is, this is not going to be a pitch for anything, but we do highlight people that are doing things extremely well. And when I sit there and I look at the monthly marketing packs, when I look at every time I log into the website, there's something new, something added. You have these, what was it? You have the marketing packs, you have the courses that I love, right? You had the
in there now.
Yeah. All this stuff. And that's why I laugh, because, I look at it and I'm like, it's 49 bucks a month. Like,
I get called an idiot many times for that. No, I'll kid you not. I've actually had more than one of our members come to me and say, Nigel, I'm kind of embarrassed paying you $49 per month for what we get. Can we pay you more? I've literally had people ask me that. And it's funny, but it's like, my whole thing with the Tech Tribe is I wanted to create it at a price point that makes sense for every MSP out there, including the people that are just starting out from their garage, like I was 15 years ago, or from my dining room table 15 years ago. And if I priced it at a couple of $100 per month, which we could easily do and probably turn over the exact same as what we're doing now, I would price out those people in there. And that to me is important. I want it to be available and accessible to everybody starting a business out there.
that ubiquitous access. And that's the
Yeah.
thing I laugh about, because like, I, especially, being a moderator of our MSP, we get all the time somebody comes in and, they won't read the previous post and they'll say, I'm starting an MSP, I need to get some contracts, I need onboarding templates, I need this, how do I get the word out? And the answer is always the same: the Tech Tribe.
It
It's
is.
like, just go, and
Yeah.
and it's not even like I did and I'm not talking anything against like coaching and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of the big, like, coaching and peer groups
Yeah.
and all the other stuff. I've been part of that when I had my MSP. They did wonders for us.
Mm.
Absolutely
Yeah. Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But I remember the thousands I paid to get the same or similar resources, not the same,
Yeah.
but similar resources that were in
Same
Tech
here.
Tribe.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've been through that, it's like you need that validation of like, okay, well, what is an onboarding checklist? What am I missing? And even if you already have your stuff, that's what I love about it. Even if you already have your stuff where it's a new MSP or an existing MSP, go in and you can look at the existing resources and gut check it against your own and say, okay,
Correct.
well,
Yeah.
maybe I missed this, maybe I missed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I love that. So, again, this is not a pitch for Nigel's not pitching for the Tech
I'm
Tribe.
all for
I'm
it.
pitching for the Tech Tribe. So
And
go
that's
join.
like, I guess the lesson out of all this, if you want to share a lesson from this whole thing, is that the way I've built my business and our whole marketing strategy is literally to create a product that is so ridiculously darn valuable that our members can't help but tell their friends about us. And that's based on an old Walt Disney quote. Probably, I'm pretty sure it was him that said it. But you create something that your people, like, that your clients and your whoever's in your world, they nearly feel guilty if they don't tell their friends about it. And that's the whole thing
Right.
that we've been going for here, is we create and stack in so much stuff here that people like you and our entire community become our raving fans. And we hardly do any marketing at all out there, because everybody just talks about the Tech Tribe and answers it for us. And that's awesome. It's what we go for, because we're killing two birds with one stone. We've got cheap marketing, and we're helping people out, making raving fans there.
And Raving Fans is actually one of those awesome books that I
Mm.
recommend to everybody. Speaking of books, you've written two. This is my favorite. This is why this is the one that's next to me. Package price profit, because that's always the question, right? How do I price everything? How do I, but but okay, so you don't call it marketing, but I will call it marketing.
It is,
There's
yeah.
different
It is.
styles of it, right? Like,
Yeah, correct.
and that's always been my style, right? Like, when I started going to the channel programs and the white label programs and start selling to MSPs, I decided I wasn't going to pour in. You could easily pour in millions of dollars in pay-per-click
Yeah.
campaigns and SEO and everything else. Very easy to dump all that money and see very negligible returns or amazing returns.
Yep.
One or the other. But
Yep.
I decided to do very similar, where I'd rather just focus on the community and create raving fans.
Yeah.
Create people that you treat them so well, they're almost forced to talk well about you. Um,
Exactly.
and that pays in dividends. So, I know it's not meant from a marketing standpoint, but it does
But
have
it is.
marketing value. You
Correct.
know
It
what I
is.
mean?
And you guys have got the exact same thing. You see in the Facebook groups out there, in the Reddit places, when someone says, hey, I'm looking to resell VoIP and do some VoIP stuff, who should I look at? And it's like OIT, 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 OIT in there every single time. So you got the exact same thing going on.
Yeah, it's good value for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So if we're starting, so let's say we're starting a brand new MSP, right? And let's say I didn't say go to Tech Tribe. Like, there was this one guy that I didn't, or I didn't tell him to go. If they're starting out, where should they be focusing on marketing? Like, what should they be doing?
It really comes down to the capital that they've got available to them. So if you're starting out with some capital, awesome, dive into some pay-per-click and some campaigns where you're paying for them. But the reality is, most people starting an MSP don't have access to a lot of capital when they're starting. So you got to go back to the more organic things, where you're hitting the ground with your feet and boots running, and get out to networking events and build as many partnerships as you possibly can. I know if I was to start an MSP today and I had when I started my MSP, I had minus $50,000. I had a horrible credit card debt. But if I was to start in a similar position to that today, the very first thing I would be doing would actually not be going and building relationships with end user, like prospects, where I think that'd be a potential awesome client. I'd be going and building it with the mid-tier of service providers that are looking after those prospects out there. And so a case in point in my MSP is, we used to do a lot in the hospitality space out here in Australia. And we had Australia's largest hospitality client or business as one of our clients. And we used to do a lot of work with their POS vendor out here. And so over time, I built up this relationship with his POS vendor, the sales manager at the POS vendor, because we were working with them all the time, and I'd take them out to lunch and whatever. And that POS vendor became one of our best lead sources over time. We didn't have to pay for that. There was probably a couple of $100 lunches here and there and a bit of relationship building, but we didn't have to. We ended up getting hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business from that particular POS vendor, just sending us leads because I'd focused on that relationship with that partner, and he had all of the clients that we wanted. He was already serving them out there. And so if I was to start an MSP today with no money, the very first thing I would be doing is just going out and finding businesses, service providers that are servicing the type of clients that I'm looking for. And I'd go out and I'd do whatever the heck I could to make their world easier and build relationship with them and take them out and become known in their world, so that I then become the default person that they're going to go and refer people to. And it's pretty cheap to go and do it. It takes time.
I mean, and it's funny, my MSP background mimics that very closely. I did the same thing, because I had telco background and, and network engineering, multi-site engineering. I went after the supply chain. So I had a telco guy come up to my office one day and said, "Hey, I'm trying to sell you internet, trying to sell you whatever." And I said, "Actually, I can help you." And we hit it off, had a good conversation, gave him my card, told him I could help with activations, with whatever. He went back. He actually never called me. He passed it off to somebody else.
Right.
Who ended up calling me. And that was the kickstart for what eventually became OITVOIP. But I started doing those activations and started doing those. And then I leveraged that to start doing pre-install meetings and reviews, right? They would walk me into the building. I'd sit with the client while they're pitching services, and I'm going and doing basically a discovery, right? An onboarding discovery. And I'm looking at what they have just to sign off, an independent third party sign off that the services were going to be able to be activated easily and without any issue. And what I'm really doing is they're walking me in as a warm intro, and they're establishing my credibility.
Yeah.
And I had a really good conversion record of turning them into MSP clients. And it was just that feeder. And absolutely. Because that's the hardest part of sales, right? Building the rapport.
Correct. And you could spend that time. And I see a lot of MSPs that are starting up, spend that time going out and joining Chamber of Commerce and business B&I groups and those sort of things. And investing the same amount of time and energy in them where they're trying to get the one client. Whereas if you go and invest that same amount of time and energy into getting the service providers as your referral partners out there, they can go and refer you 5, 10, 15, 20. And so we had I saw Kevin, Kevin just mentioned that he was dealing with Micros. Micros was another one that gave us deals out here. We had them at another client out here. And they used to hand us deals because of that same thing. I'd built the relationship with the service provider that was servicing the same people that we wanted to service out there. And
it's so smart to do, right? It's just easy. And it
was. When I realized how easy it was easy. I didn't realize it at first, so.
Well, I can't take credit for knowing what to expect when I first started. I just thought it was a good idea. It just kind of blew up. But once you start to realize how you can provide value to them, you start saying, "No, well, I can pre-qualify. I can warn you about any of the gotchas or anything like that." And as I start to identify, I would also help them pitch additional services. Hey, I saw that they have this old server. Maybe you can pitch them backup or whatever, and started helping them with that. And then I became an asset to them. And what happened is they started bringing me in to train their other salespeople, and they started using me to go out with their other salespeople. It got to the point where anywhere in Florida that we were going out, they were sending somebody out. They were booking time with me, and I had to bring on people to go out with them also because I couldn't keep up with the load. And it was fantastic as long as you're bringing them the value, and salespeople spread, telecom, especially telco, they'll leave one org, they go to the next org, and they start feeding you again because you built those raving fans. And it was phenomenal. It was great. So
the old one to many to many relationship, like one to many to many, rather than trying to sell one to many, sell one to many to many. Go and find the people that have got tons of your clients in there and go and sell to them and build relationship with them. That's what I'd be doing as number one if I was to start an MSP today with nothing out there.
Absolutely. You got to amplify your efforts, right? It's not it's not enough just because you only have 24 hours in a day, right?
Exactly.
we try to do more, but
the other one that I would do is as all of us go through MSP journeys, you get to the point where you go, these customers now that I'm serving don't really fit us anymore. And so you get big, as you get bigger, you go, that kind of 5-seat company there, like it's not worth us looking after that 5-seat company anymore. And so the other thing I'd be doing is I'd be going and building relationships with other MSPs in my area that are the bigger ones and saying, hey, if and when you guys have clients that you'd like to offboard that aren't perfect fit for you anymore as you guys are growing, I'm more than happy to take them on. And if they're in that 5, 10, 15 range and they're that MSP can't look after that size anymore, that might be super helpful for me to look after those clients for a couple of years as I'm building my own MSP up again.
So how did you combat, like, excuse me, how did you combat when they were worried about competition?
Oh,
I
sorry.
apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed in the MSP space a lot, and you guys see this, and I'm sure everybody sees this, is people care far less about competition. Like, this is one of the few industries where we often care more about helping our competition than we care about our own profits, which is crazy. And it comes from that whole love of just helping people and helping technology over making money. And so out here in Australia and in lots of marketplaces around the world, I see this whole collaboration between MSPs where they don't have that whole competitive, combative nature in there. They realize that the marketplace is so darn big. They're not touching hardly any minor percentage of it whatsoever. The more you can work together, the more you've got your competition or your enemy close. You're kind of learning together. You're growing together. We had a bunch of them. I had probably 7 MSPs in my local marketplace here in Sydney that we did business with in some way, shape, or form. One was a Google Apps MSP. They only looked after Google Apps. And so whenever they got a lead that was Microsoft and wanted to stay in the Microsoft world, they'd send it to us. Whenever we got a Google Apps lead that we didn't want to deal with because we didn't touch Google Apps, we'd send it across to them. Another one was a very small MSP that loved dealing with the 1, 2, 3 person shops. And so we used to go and hand them all their stuff, and they were too worried to go and deal with a 50 person shop. So they would palm them to us. And so you're finding relationships like that where the competition doesn't really matter is very, very powerful out there. And our industry is very open to it, very, very, very open to those relationships.
Yeah, and I like that because, as MSPs, especially when I was starting, I thought I had to do everything. I have to do every single service. I have to do every single thing. I have to sell it myself. And it wasn't until I got older and slightly wiser, I realized, no, let me leverage people that are subject matter expert on this. And I often like to refer to the adage or the analogy of the MSP is a general contractor, right? They're going to bring on the roofer and the plumber and the electrician, and it's those same things. Once you start, help working with those other MSPs that may be the Google Apps expert or maybe the expert with, small micro SMBs or whatever it is, you're feeding them too. They're far less likely to bite you in the hand, realistically.
Exactly.
Because you have a symbiotic relationship. And no, I'm all about that. And that's why I love these communities. I say it all the time. When I first got started, there was no Reddit sub. There was definitely no tech tribe that I knew of.
I wish. You look back now and go, man, my journey would have been so different if it was. I was very lucky that I did find a community very early in my journey. In 2008, I came across a local in-person community called SMB IT Professionals out here. Mm-hmm. And that really changed the trajectory. That's where I first came across that whole notion that MSPs don't really care much about competing against each other. Almost nimble MSPs, like the smaller end. At the higher end, when you've got 100 staff and 200 staff, it can become highly competitive at that end. But in the small world where most of us live with under 20, 30, 40 staff, this competition rarely exists. And I remember going to my first ever in-person event, scared as all hell that all these crazy good competitors are going to be in the room. And I sit in there and I'm up the back, and it was at a Microsoft building. And I was watching the presenters going, holy crap, I'm learning all this amazing stuff here. And in the break, I was standing up the back and eating pizza, and I'm just looking around the room. This guy walks up to me and starts talking to me. And I find out he runs an MSP about 15 kilometers down the road that's got 7 or 8 staff or something. So he's double my size at that time. And we start talking about managed service agreements. And I was at that point in time trying to figure out how to do fixed fee pricing. And and he goes, oh, what's your email address? And I went, oh, like, what's he going to do? Try and pitch me or something? But I gave it to him. And he jumps on his phone. He goes, I'm just going to send you my managed service agreement template and you can go and use it. Wow. And I went, what the crap? My jaw dropped to the floor. And I just went like, this guy's my competitor. I've met him 10 minutes ago and he's sending me his managed service agreement template, which is what I'd been trying to build. And that was like the beginning of my eyes opening in the world of the MSP space. And I have seen that type of scenario play out hundreds and thousands of times since all around the world, in that MSPs love helping other MSPs in the journey. And that's my love of community started that day, and it hasn't stopped from that day. And that's why that's a big key driver of the Tech Tribe, is just creating a space where that kind of conversation can always happen out there.
I see it all the time. I can't tell you like how many people have reached out to me on the Tech Tribe asking, okay, I have a client in Miami, I have this, I have that. And a lot of it's not even, it doesn't always have to be VoIP. They'll reach out because of my locality, or because I also have, because of our partner base, we have, hundreds and hundreds of partners or thousands of partners. I don't honestly don't even know, across the US and Canada. So like, they know, like, they can reach out to me and say, hey, do you have a resource here, a resource there? But and that's the thing, it amplifies, right? Like
Yeah.
they post in Tech Tribe, and they'll post on Reddit, they'll post everywhere else, and it just amplifies. And going back to what you're originally saying, using those raving fans does the exact same thing. It amplifies your communication, so that you're not just the one saying everything. It's always heard louder and stronger if it's being said by somebody else.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I
And it
love
can
that.
be hard in the MSP space to create raving fans. I'll admit it is harder than what it is for us in the Tech Tribe to create raving fans, because it's a B2B service. It's like, it's also a pretty unsexy industry. I'm going to call it that. Like, we're not the most. We're not
Says
the
you.
whatever.
I love a good Cat 5.
I
What are you
love
talking
it.
about?
I absolutely love it. I call it sexy, but for most end users, they look at it as a lot still look at it as the unsexy industry out there. But
Oh yeah.
the more you create an experience for your clients in your service delivery and everything, the more talking points you do create out there to help that raving fan thing happen. And in our MSP, we used to work hard at trying, like, I always had this mantra with our team, is that we're not an IT company. We're a customer experience company that just happens to know about IT. And so in every one of our SOPs and our processes and our interactions and whatever, we were always looking for tiny little ways that we could add a funky, cool, quirky experience to the end users in there, because we knew that the referrals wouldn't come from delivering fast support. They would, but the real referrals, like the higher quality referrals and the larger amount of referrals, would come from those little quirky, fun, cool experience things that we tacked on top of our support out there. And so it absolutely is possible. You just got to think a little bit outside the box and craft and create an experience for your clients that's not just standard IT support.
And that's the thing, right? Like, you talk to all these MSPs and you say, okay, well, give me your 30-second pitch. And that's the one thing I'd give credit for, like BNI and some of the others, where you have 30 seconds to talk. It is not you can't sit there and say, well, we're your outsourced IT department, the blah, 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 and better, faster.
Certified in this and certified in that.
And you hear all these industry experts, screaming at the top of their lungs. The modern nimble MSP today is focusing on that customer experience, right?
Yes,
it's less about what tech you're using, less about what stack, which kills me. I see these MSPs today go on, on all these different communities, and like, okay, well, which EDR are we using, or which backup are we using? And how do I sell this? And it's like, the client doesn't care. Because it's not sexy, right? EDR can't be sexy, unless you're using Huntress. Huntress is sexy, but but when you can say, okay, I'm going to make your business better. I'm going to make your business more profitable, more successful. I'm going to give you the life that you wanted to have, because you're not going to worry about these headaches. I'm going to make it lean and efficient. That becomes sexy.
100%. That's the and that's the conversation. That's the big opportunity for MSPs nowadays, is to shift all these conversations away from fast support and certified engineers and 24/7 and all that kind of crap, and up the value chain into how we're going to add value to your business. And I know Keith is on the line here. He is a big proponent of selling with value out there, and I think he's one of the leading people in the world pushing that whole conversation around selling with value. And it is so important, and so much of an opportunity now to have those business level conversations with prospects that becomes that other way that you become sticky and talked about and whatever, when you're diving into their business and figuring out what opportunities they've got and what risks they've got. And you're having those ROI level conversations and those total cost of ownership level conversations, not the whole thing about, you got a problem. We're really quick. Like we're certified, like, which is just
because
that stuff was.
You don't want to have a conversation where problem is in the conversation, right? The word
Correct.
problem, you want to avoid that,
Yeah.
And so, okay. So, most MSPs are pretty adept. They build that skill to be able to have that conversation, eventually get around to that in person. But marketing's not that, right? Marketing is being able to send that communication via email or drip campaign or landing page or some other medium.
Cool.
And you still got to get that message across. So we have that fictional starting MSP, right? And I'm going to put this back on, because I actually went and created a banner real quick. I thought it was brilliant. I'm going to quote you now from now on with this.
That one.
And so we're creating this. We're not creating an IT company. We're creating this customer experience company, and we are going to go after the supply chain, right? That middle tier. We have our target. How do we start attracting that? How do we start finding them? How do we start marketing to them to get the communication?
If you're going after that middle tier supply chain layer, you're typically going to, and you've got very little capital. You've just got to hit the phones and hit the events and just get out there and use you. Like, you don't have any money to leverage. You don't have any other assets to leverage. You just got to leverage yourself and your time at that point in time. And so you got to get out to as many events where these people are hanging out, and as many opportunities where you can just get in a room and have conversations with them. And I know in lots of industries around the world, there's always, like, if you use sites like meetup.com, I used to use meetup.com a lot out here in Australia, and I would just search for industries that are having events in my area, and I'd often go to 2 to 3 a week. And that was before kids and before wife, so I was able to get out. But I'd go and hang out and just start those relationship building. And that's, as I said, like, when you got no money, you can't throw it into PPC or direct mail campaigns or any of those sort of things, which absolutely do work, and they work amazingly well. But when you've got no capital, you just got to get in and use yourself and use your time and use it very, 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 very well. Because if you're out there, every second really does count in those early stages. Getting out there, you've got to work your real little butt off to get that traction. Because the thing that I hate seeing, that I see a lot, but I also hate seeing the most, is these MSPs with all of this, like, new startup MSPs with all of this energy behind this amazing technology stack and all this kind of stuff, that have got, that probably could run something amazing if they had enough clients in there, go for 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 8 months trying to get clients by doing all the wrong things that we've already talked about, and then having to shut up shop because they couldn't get over that first hump of having enough income coming in to support the baseline business. And so you got to get out and just be so darn intentional about going out and making every single second count and doing the hard work. It is hard work in those early stages. You got to pound the pavement a bit. You got to pick up the phone a heck lot more than what you typically want to out there. You've got to do it.
And I used to say that all the time, right? Like, people say, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. And that's why I say client selection, especially at your younger years in your business, is so critical, because you don't have the time. You have that 24 hours where you're wearing so many hats, where you know what I mean? And that's why that amplification is so important, right? You go, like you said, go to those events, because if you can do that, you can hit 50 people at a time or 100 people at a time. You can start to learn about that industry. That's why I say focus on a niche when you're starting. That way you can learn all about it and add that value, because today I'm fortunate, if I want to, sawed off and play some Call of Duty or whatever, I can do it. I'm fortunate, right? I leave people like Simon to do the real work. But, but when I was first starting, I can't do that. I have to be everything everywhere. So focus your time. And I love that. Go to those industry events. A lot of times, if the entrance for those things is like $15-20, a lot of times they're free, it doesn't matter. But hit the event, start collecting cards, start building your database. All right. So we figured supply chain. We determined we're a customer experience company. We're hitting these events. We collected a bunch of business cards. Are we doing this in our CRM? Are we doing this in our PSA? Are we signing up for free HubSpot? CRM. What are we doing here?
Well, I won't leak that we're about to launch a brand spanking new CRM inside the Tech Tribe then. Coming soon. Of
course, it's been 30 seconds since you've launched something. Of course you're going to do something.
Exactly right. It's a fully featured crazy thing with a sales pipeline and everything in it. But yeah, you absolutely should have some sort of CRM. However, again, another mistake that I made and lots of MSPs make is they go too heavy on that in the early stages. If you're just starting out, you can very, very, very likely get started out with Excel. Like, that's it. Just get started with the tools you got. Don't, like, as we're talking about, every single second counts in those early stages, or every single minute counts in those early stages. And too many of us, especially us tech folk people, get carried away in the tech at that point in time. We're going, let's go and spend 4 hours or 10 hours trying to figure out what CRM is going to be best for us right now, when we don't have any leads coming in. Like, what's the point of getting your CRM set up if you've got 3 leads coming in a week? That can be handled via Excel. And so yes, CRM wildly important in some way, shape, or form, but the CRM can just be Excel to start with, and columns in Excel for touch points or whatever it happens to be, and notes in there just to get started. Once you've got some flow coming through and you're going, Excel's not the right tool now, go and jump on the HubSpot or the Active Campaign or the Infusionsoft, or Keep as it's now called, or the Growably, which is Tech Tribe's new platform. Go and grab one of them and then go and work with it. But don't put the cart before the horse, like most of us MSP folk have done, and I've done too many times, because it's really about lead flow in those early stages.
Especially IT people, right? We're so want to just go get the new tool,
red shiny syndrome, and give me a new tool and all new PSA and new, like, none of that stuff matters in that early stages. You've got to get past that hump. And that hump is just the most important thing of all, of getting your lead flow up and running and getting it to the point where you've got enough income coming in And I don't have the hard data, but I would take a guesstimate, and it's a pretty wild guesstimate, that out of all of these startup 1 to 2 person MSPs that start every day at the moment in our space, I would say that 50 to 70% of them are probably failing within the first 9 to 12 months. And it's because of decisions like that. It's because they're worried about getting all the technology stack 100% correct before they go out to market. But instead of going out and just focusing on getting leads. And I get it. Getting leads is hard. Like, it's hard bloody work. It's tough work,
hard.
especially in our industry. A lot of us identify as what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with I.
IT people?
Yeah, we're all, it's on the tip of my tongue. When you're either out there,
introvert.
We like identify as introverted, right? So we struggle to get out and build relationships. But if you're going to build a business and you want to build a business, you have to do that. You got to work out where that introversion comes from and go and use it to your advantage, not look at it as a downside or a threat in there. And you might not look at me now and think
Keith came up with another word.
Idiot.
and I've definitely been one of those.
I agree. I agree. But it's rather like, for me, in the early stages, I was probably, you might not see it now. I've gone through a crazy personal transformation over the last decade that I've had to work really hard on, but I was the most horrible introvert in the world. Like I couldn't even step into a room of business people, because I was sweating like crazy and I was shaking when I walked into the rooms of business people. And so I had to just work at it because I knew I wanted something. And the more you work at it, the more comfortable you get in those rooms. And that is getting that confidence and that comfortability to go and have conversations with people is so darn important. And I know a lot of us IT folk do struggle with that in the early stages. And so the more you can push towards that and push into the challenge and dive into it, the easier your life's going to become as you're getting your thing up and running.
That's the thing. I mean, you're absolutely 100% right. I mean, I'm an engineer. People laugh, but I still consider myself an introvert. If I have the choice of going out to a party or staying in and watching a movie with my wife, I'd prefer the latter in a heartbeat.
Same.
But but I did the most horrible thing when I was younger. I hated going out and being around people. Not that I hated people. I hated going to, unless I was with a group of friends. Like I'm not the guy that would go, say hi to random people and strangers and whatever. Yeah. So I became a DJ and I did event DJ. I did competition. Competition's easier because you're on stage and nobody's bothering you. But and I will tell you, I DJ'd, I've done thousands of events over my lifetime. And to the very last event I did, getting on stage and, announcing whatever was going on, emceeing, I would still get butterflies. I've done hundreds of these things and spoken on stage. I think my biggest audience was with Microsoft and it was over 7,000 people. And still panicking. And it doesn't matter if there's 10 people or 1,000 people, I'm still panicking every time. But you build that muscle memory, right? It's that Malcolm Gladwell at 10,000 hours. So you don't have to think about it anymore. You just do it. And that makes a big difference, and so you can walk in and kind of just, I'll go to a conference today and I love sitting. My favorite time is going to the bar and sitting out and having drinks with friends, just, talking the shit. Right. But still going out and meeting random people, you have to do it. It's part of the job. And so, now today I find myself on autopilot. I'll walk into a room and I'll find people and I'll just join conversations. I'll go say hello. I'll go whatever. And it's not I'm forcing myself to at this point. It's just an autopilot. My brain knows I'm in a room with people. Just do it.
You've just become you. It's just become part of who you are. And same here is like 10 or probably 15 years ago, I would walk into the rooms and or maybe 20 years ago, I'd be scared crapless. But then I'd see people like you walking over and just joining conversations full of confidence. And I go, holy bejeepers. Like, imagine being born with that like charisma or those skills or whatever it happens to be. And I automatically just assumed that it was something you were born with out there. And then I just didn't have it. But now I'm like you, that I can go into a room and I'm happy joining any conversation. I'm happy starting conversation. I'm happy. I'll talk to anybody in an airline, wherever the heck it is. But we've both had to go through a journey to get there. And we've gone from the person that was horribly scared of doing all of that stuff. And so I guess the takeaway for everyone here is, if you're that person that's horribly scared when you jump into a room, you can get to the other side. It just takes that discipline and that commitment and the practice and getting out there and dealing with the demons of why you're struggling with a lot of it's around self-identity and not feeling worth, feeling your full worth in there, and dealing with that stuff and getting through it so that you do feel like you're worthy of joining those conversations and jumping in them. Because once you do, and you're confident in it, like you are, Ray, like your world changes, right? Like everything changes. And
Absolutely.
the saying,
it's
the
funny.
horrible saying. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that crazy old saying, like the world becomes your oyster, kind of rings true, because you look at everything in this positive light of opportunity out there, knowing that you've overcome all this craziness, and you can look at any situation like that and turn it into opportunity rather than anything else.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like we were talking today, we do our staff meetings, and in our staff meetings, we talk about challenges and wins. And, I brought up something today where, I don't want to get into the details, but I brought up something today where the majority of the staff grumbled and they saw it as a challenge. I'm like, no, this is a win. We took a negative situation, and it was all about reframing it, right? I took a negative situation, talked to the person, and turned them into a champion now. And it was a win for everybody. And he walked away happy. And I'm like, it wasn't what we wanted initially, but everybody was happy in the end. That's a win.
Yeah,
that's,
absolutely.
And it takes effort. It takes, you got to go force yourself to do it, which sucks. I absolutely sucks.
Yeah, I get it.
But you got to do it. So Keith, so the reason Keith is giving me a hard time because I was supposed to be at ASCII California for the Cup with Simon, and to go meet up with Keith. I didn't go. I was supposed to, Channel Partners in Texas. Right. I didn't go because Sean would go to those things. I didn't have to go.
Right.
I was supposed to go to Zero Trust this week where Keith is at, and I didn't go either.
You didn't go again.
But I did go to Ride a Boom like 2 weeks ago. So I go to events when Keith isn't there, and I feel bad about
it. We are yet to meet in person, but I love seeing him on everything that I'm on, and he's
oh yeah,
he's always got in between all the digging at us, he's got a wealth of wisdom around this space, and he'll never say he does. Like he's already said he
no, he's humble. He's too humble to say that.
Too humble, but he's like his whole mantra around leading with value is so ridiculously spot on in this day and age that there is some wisdom in there, Kevin. There's some wisdom.
Yeah, he always says he never sells, but
I said Kevin because I saw Rose up there.
Sure he doesn't mind.
Rose in my head because
if you're comparing Kevin Rose from Dig to Keith Rose, I mean Keith Nelson, I mean that's a win. I mean, so okay, so you're walking into rooms, you're creating buzz, and Isaac, I hope that answers your question. You don't need my voice. You don't need Nigel's full accent. Although now I'm thinking like what that child
in Australia.
No, you're right. Like it's only a US thing. So, but it's like anywhere else, right? You go to a different country, you sound smarter than you do in your home country.
Correct. That's why there's no Aussie Tech Tribe members. I'm kidding. We do have some.
They're like, that's just Nigel. No.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I have to point that out. You do a great job of, and I have to give credit to Marnie at Lifecycle Insights also for this, that she started to do events at 2 different events at different time zones, specifically for, each hemisphere. And you do that. You guys do events also. You try to, be cognizant of the different time zones to be completely inclusive to your community base. And I appreciate that. And this is a step forward towards that. Normally we do these at 1 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon, which would have been 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning your time.
And you don't want to see me at that one.
No.
And it's hard to do that because for us, we've got to double everything that we do. Every single event that we do, we've got to double it. And it does get hard. It takes its toll when you're doing 2 of everything out there. But again, you've got a global audience. We've got to I want to make sure everybody gets access to this stuff.
Yeah, and it goes back to being where they're going to gather, and I want to see where you stand on that, because we talked supply chain, we talked about creating that doing that 30-second pitch, talked about going out and talking to people and meeting people. One of the things I always like to do is my MSP clients were super, super easy to find because they were in business at least 5 years, right? They've gotten past that hump of collapsing. They have at least 10 employees because they have they have a budget for payroll, right? You can't have payroll for 10 employees without, some kind of budget yearly. They're in a regulated space. I love regulated businesses. Because they have somebody else that's the monkey on their back. You're not the
True.
one saying MFA and backups. They have somebody else saying they have to do it.
They've got a compliance monkey on the shoulder.
Right. And I love, people that were actively investing in their business, like growing, right? They're advertising, they're, they're going to these industry events, and these people are easy to find, but they understand the value of investing in the business. So once you do that, you can start saying, okay, well, I'm also adding value to your business by such and such, and it's an easy sell. But my question is this. So how do you find these things, right? You talk about the supply chain, but if you were we're our customer experience company that we're talking about, you hit the supply chain, what niches are you going after? What events are you going after for the clients, right? Because you got to have a component there as well.
Yeah, 100%. And the answer to that really is it depends, because it's going to depend a lot on your skills. Like you might have some industry experience already in the finance space, or in the like you in the regulation space, or in the legal space, or whatever it happens to be. So whatever you pick is going to be semi-heavily influenced by your past history, as well as your network of what you've got around. Because if you've got a huge network in, say, the legal industry, because you've worked in it for ages, then it's probably going to be a logical one to add as one of your niches that you go after in there. And if I was like, if we're in our mythical example of the startup MSP that's going to go and start building things up and try to get out to these events, and say they chose the legal space, probably a bad example, because most MSPs know that the lawyers are one of the tougher ones to deal with, but I'm going to keep running with it because it was the first one I said and I don't want to change. But but if I was to hit that space, for instance, and I'm going, all right, I've got no money or very little money, got no clients, I've got a few contacts, I've got some industry experience with maybe some of the tools or whatever, so I can kind of talk my way around it. And then I want to get to these events. And so I would be going and finding whatever legal events are happening out there. And you mentioned, even if they cost like $20-$30, I would be at that point in time, if they're costing me $500 or $1,000 to get in that event, I would be figuring out how that, like, I would just not pay for Netflix for a year if I had to go and get to that event, or whatever. Like, I'd stop bloody coffees and lunches outside if I had to get to that event. Because if I get to that event and I just build 3 good relationships that are going to send me maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 clients, that $1,000 is going to be the cheapest cost per acquisition you're ever going to get in an MSP client out there, which is typically hovers in the range of $1,000 to $5,000 cost per acquisition out there. And so I'd be going to those events, and when everybody is in the sessions, like when all the lawyers are in the sessions, going and doing all of they're listening to all of the keynotes and whatever, I would be walking around the vendor halls, building relationships with every single vendor that's sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for all the lawyers to come straight back out. And then at the lunchtimes, I would be sitting with the lawyers at all the tables, going and figuring out what pain points they got and talking to them about like challenges, and say, hey, we're building a business in the tech space that's there supporting the legal industry and blah, blah, blah. And just giving them a bit of context, but then just making the whole conversation about them. And I'd be doing that as much as I possibly could, and throwing whatever time, energy, and whatever little dollars I had towards getting to those events where you've got all of your end users, as well as that one-to-many to many sales, like your supply chain people, all in the same space in a 2-3 day condensed window, and they're all there ready for you to go and talk to. And you've got that perfect opportunity where everyone's sitting in the keynotes, where you can go and do that lap of the vendor hall, going and building all these relationships with potential referral partners out there.
And I love that, because especially starting out, everybody looks at, I need to get swag, I need to get sponsorships, I need to do this, I need that. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely want a Tech Tribe hat, but
we'll make it happen.
I love it. All right, but
and I thought Keith mentioned it as well, so we'll make it happen.
Nice. But the thing is, like, I used to, even when I turned into a vendor, but it was the same thing. I used to just attend these events just as an attendee. The real magic, anybody that attends conferences knows, the real magic happens in the hallways. The conversation. Yeah. I would do more networking and sales sitting down at a session, or walking between hallways, just talking to people, lending a charger for their cell phone or whatever. I'd have more positive impact doing that than any booth I've ever sponsored. Not that I'm saying, you get to a point you have to sponsor the booths and all that eventually too. But if you're starting that first customer experience company, just join and just participate. You know what I mean? And you're going to learn about it, which is great.
And don't hang out. Sorry, I was just
no, go ahead.
Yuck in there. One of the other mistakes I see a lot of people made, and I made the mistake as well when I was needing new clients, was I would hang out at tech events, and that would be the only events I'd hang out at, like the IT Nations and the Autotask Lives and whatever they are, which are freaking amazing events to go and learn from industry partners and whatever. But if you're struggling for clients and you're looking for clients, don't do that at the expense of not going to a legal event or an accounting event or a finance event or a manufacturing event or whatever industry you're looking at. Go to them first. They're like, if you need clients, go and focus on that. The tech stuff will happen and can happen later on. There's always going to be an awesome tech event to go to. There's a ton happening all around the world every second week. So to get out to those other ones. Bring it, Kevin.
All right.
Says,
Yeah, no, my mic muted. My Stream Deck.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Bring cigars, absolutely. Like, and that was the thing too. Like, I was brought, I would bring Altoids, those little mini tins. I'd buy like the 20 packs and throw in my backpack. And because anybody that does these events, it's you're talking all day and whatever. So just little things to like have a conversation with people, little conversation starters. If you're not an extrovert, which I don't think any of us are, even those of us that have kind of built up to it, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation starter with you, right?
Correct.
Hell, even you want to bring a Mjolnir with you, whatever you're going to do.
What that was. That's the way to get clients. When everything else fails, you resort to force.
Exactly. You tell them, you say you are worthy because you're holding Mjolnir. So I want to wrap it up with the easiest part and it's funny because this is the first thing everybody asks for. How do I create the PDFs? How do I create the email campaigns? How do I create the socials? And I'm going to do the shilling for you, Nigel. Just join Tech Tribe. Like, it's not even that hard.
It's hands-off marketing.
Right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, the stuff is there, the courses are there, the templates are there, the marketing packs that are come out monthly. He's literally giving you the information. So I wanted this partner first to cover all the other hard stuff, right? How you're getting your value proposition, who you're going to go after, how you're going to talk to them. That's the hard stuff. That's the stuff you're not going to get in a lot of, any of these kits or anything. I promise you the what to send them once you got your Excel sheet with your contacts. And I will tell you, I'm a major proponent of keeping your client list or your drip campaign list super, super clean. Make sure it's categorized, make sure it's, you have their industries, if you can find information on Zoom info or Reference USA or whatever, find their industry size and their employee count and, their age or whatever. Get all that because it becomes gold when you finally start marketing to them.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and to that end, I always like to do a giveaway. I think without question, Keith has been the superstar chat person today. So Keith, I don't think you have this, but I know you value, knowledge. I'm going to send you, or Simon's going to send you. Let's be honest. I'm not going to, but Simon's going to send you a copy of Package Price Profit from Nigel, courtesy of OIT. Thank you for being in the chat. Nigel, before I get, and the hat, we got to get the hats. I love the hat. I'll rock the hat all the time.
Awesome.
And maybe I'll get a wig to just like, next time we do something.
We need to find a vendor that builds hats with the orange hanging out the side.
Yes. But before Simon comes up to talk about our events, anything else you want to share with everybody before we let you go?
No, that's it. I think like if you're in those early stages where you're starting out, the best thing you can possibly do is lean on the shoulder of giants and just look out there, or stand on the shoulder of giants and just look out there at people who are doing what you want to do and go and reverse engineer and go and figure out what they're doing and go and do your version of it. What I see too many MSPs make mistakes in, and again, this is coming from me making the same mistake many times when they're trying to market, is they try and be creative and they try and go out there and come up with these new campaign styles or new types of things and whatever, to try and get clients out there, when in reality, if you're just starting your marketing game, you shouldn't be trying anything too creative. You should be trying what's already true and tried and tested by other people and just bringing your own personal flair to it. Where people are getting results, go after like if you're starting to get money and you've got some capital, go and do Google PPC. It absolutely works for MSPs all around the world, all day, every day. Go out there and absolutely do direct mail campaigns, which we've got a ton of in the tribe, and there's about another 10 more coming in the next year. Go out there and do like the LinkedIn prospecting, which does work. You don't want to become one of those people that's doing it horribly. We all know there's a lot of them out there, but there's some awesome people doing LinkedIn prospecting extremely well, and go out and use those tried and trusted and tested marketing tactics out there before you get creative. You can, once you've got some results and you understand how marketing works and you've got some wins under your plate, then get creative. Then you've probably got the chops to go out and the money to go out and get a little bit more creative. But don't do any of that before going and doing the tried and true and tested stuff.
Simon will tell you I'm a big proponent of that. Of, you know, when we come up with new initiatives and stuff like that, I ask, okay, well, look at some other people. I'm not saying copy them. I'm just saying look at some other people for inspiration. What are they doing? What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? So we can learn from it. And like, I'm looking here. You literally have a year's worth of content for anybody or beyond for anybody starting out. I mean, it could not get easier. You know
it is. If you click on that print newsletter button, the one below it in the left-hand side, in the menu bar with the newbie side, we've now built the system to the point where if you want to send out a print newsletter to your clients, you literally upload your logo, upload your colors, and click a button. Yeah, look at that in Canva if you really want to edit it. But if not, you can click that edit the bleed one there, the like bleed or no bleed, and it will send you a PDF with all of your stuff on it ready to go. You literally don't update a thing on it.
I mean,
ready in 5 seconds. And we tried, like, our goal is just to make it so darn easy that people don't have an excuse to not go out and use this stuff. There's a print ready one.
Easier. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Got the bleed lines and everything on it, ready to send if you're going to go to that level of doing it with bleed on it. Ready to go.
And again, $49. I mean, come on. Come on.
We are getting stuff in place to do a price increase. Hopefully it's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months. There's some of our back end systems are a pain in the butt to go and change that at the moment, but we will do it. But the way we do it is that every single person that's in the tribe at that point in time is grandfathered into their pricing for life. And so it'll only be new people that join us to get them.
Do you want to talk about Growably really quick before we let everybody go?
20 seconds. It's just we're building a platform on an existing platform called High Level out there, which is a sales enablement, marketing automation, email marketing, SMS marketing, landing page builder, website hoster, funnel builder, survey system, calendar system. The whole lot's all in there, and we're giving it at this stage to all our current Tech Tribe members as part of their membership. There'll be a couple of limits in there because it's a hard cost to us in terms of the number of emails you can send and whatnot. We're about to give it away to everybody in the Tech Tribe. And it's just another reason, like, we hear so many people having the excuse of, I don't have a CRM and I don't know how to set it up and I don't know all of this stuff. And I went, like, we just got to get rid of that excuse. And so now we're just going to give it to people. And the awesome thing with it is that we can click buttons on our end and push all of the marketing material that we create into your CRM. So we click a button and it loads it into yours, and you've got your email campaigns and your landing pages and all that sort of stuff. They're ready for you to go with your logos and everything already on it in there. So it's hopefully a month each away for Tech Tribe members.
Datto, and it wasn't Rob Ray is where I heard this from, but Datto said this is the golden age of IT. And I get there's tons of risk, there's tons of liability, there's tons of gotchas. It's always been the case. I mean, I remember my first ISDN connection I connected, and I got the Melissa virus. It's always been the case. The danger's out there, but we just talked. You can create a brand new MSP from day one to active clients and marketing and the whole thing. I've never seen it that it's so easy to do so quickly with good practices. Not even like you're making stuff up like we had to. Like good practices and resources. You know what I mean?
Vendors. Like good vendors. Vendors have had 15, 20 years of maturity since we were starting out. And so you look at these vendors now and the on-ramp for them to get up and running and all these multi-tenant tools that you've got access to. And I look at it and go, oh my goodness, the opportunity. Like, I don't have the energy to go and run an MSP and build it again. I've done my
I couldn't either.
Like you have as well. But if I had that energy again with what's available now, I would be like way more than the kid in the candy store was that I was back then. It's just phenomenal what's access to now. Obviously, that comes with a flip side in that there's lots more competition now out there as well. And that's where that customer experience is a vital part of an MSP nowadays. You used to be able to get by with having fast support and whatever it happened to be, but you can't now. You've got to bundle in some customer service. You've got to have a brand personality in there that's you, and it's got some human in it or a lot of human in it. And you've got to go and focus on those things as well. But leveraging all the bloody amazing tools and technology and vendors and support and communities and whatever you got out there, it's just phenomenal what it is for a startup MSP today.
Absolutely. And with that, Nigel, thank you so much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate you, man. Simon, why don't you tell us what we have coming up before we let everybody go?
Yeah. So we just got wrapped up with this amazing webinar. Again, it's going to be available right after this for the ones that didn't get to catch all of it. We're also sponsoring the Cyber Drink Capture the Flag, which is starting on Monday, the competition. So you make sure that you join that. There's some awesome prizes being given out by the sponsors. Next week on Thursday at 6:30 p.m., we're going to be at the Tech Bar podcast, episode 32 with Ashley Cooper, Colin Knox, and Dave Goldie of Grading MSP. Right after on March 10th at 1 p.m. We're going to be doing the partner first. What if you never had to do billing reconciliation again? And that's with Grading MSP. And then to end the month at March 24th at 1 p.m. ET, we have the top 10 compliance questions for new VoIP resellers with CLA. So make sure you stay tuned, you subscribe, and you stay up to date with everything that we have coming up on the channel and with our company.
And we'll have to figure out a way to get Nigel on the Tech Bar. We'll have to work out scheduling to get you and Javier.
Maybe when I'm allowed in the US next, we can do it live in person.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. I would love that. Yeah. So with that, OIT family, thank you so much. We got a standing ovation from Keith the Rose Nelson.
Thank you, Keith. Hat will be on the way. My bribe back to you for all the support you give is on the way.
Absolutely. Until the next time, OIT fam, take care. Be good to yourselves.